brings us to board member appointment. We asked members of the community to send in a resume if they were interested in filling an empty seat on the Board of Education. We received a few applicants. We interviewed, and I'm proud to ask Pamela Fisk to step forward, and we'd like to welcome her to the board. I have to administer the oath of office to the Board of Education member. If you would raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Pamela T. Fisk, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education member according to the best of my abilities. Thank you. With that, your official Liberty pin. That opens up public comment, our first edition of public comment. Okay, we have no public comment. Takes us to our educational reports. Our BOCES summer school. And,
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Principal Jeffrey Molesky.
Okay. So, my name is Jeff Molesky. I am the academic summer school principal for Sullivan BOCES. This year we started academic summer school July 6th and ran it through August 13th, utilizing the Edgenuity platform. And the Edgenuity platform was new to all of us this summer. We tried to kind of mix in something different than we usually previously had done starting March when we were in pause during the COVID, so we tried something a little bit different, and we used Edgenuity for our online platform. For our participating districts, we had Eldred, Ballsburg, Liberty, and Sullivan West. We had no participation from Manor, Roscoe, and Tri-Valley this year. Our courses obviously are designed for credit recovery. This year, students were exempt from Regents exams, so there wasn't any Regents exams, so any kids that came and they needed to take a Regents for a specific course, they were exempt and they would have passed if they attended and passed our summer session. Students were permitted to complete work daily at times that worked for them. We did not schedule specific time slots for students to attend online due to unforeseen circumstances of work and other scheduling difficulties over the summer. So students were required to log in daily at whatever time was convenient for them. And there were some office hours and some other times that I'll get into as we continue to go through so you can get a better understanding of how staff assisted and helped out. Overall student enrollment was 213 students. That was from all component school districts. Overall course selections was 417. Most students who attend summer school usually take 2 courses, and there's very seldom, there's very few that take 3 sessions. So between basically 1 and 2 sessions. Liberty student enrollment was 72 students this year that attended, and the Liberty course selections were 128 courses were selected, or classes that students participated in. Courses offered through Edgenuity were Algebra 1, Algebra 1A, Algebra 2, Earth Science, Economics, English 7, 12, Geometry, Global Math 7-8, Science 7-8, Social Studies 7-8, and U.S. History. If you view our next slide, it basically has our total enrollment. So you can see our total enrollment for algebra was 25, total liberty enrollment was 22, and total that passed was 3. Earth Science, 22 was our total enrollment, liberty enrollment, total that passed was 5, and liberty enrollment was 10. Keep going, 1 and 1, no students passed. English 7-8, 40 was our overall enrollment, 12 were enrolled for liberty, 1 liberty passed, and so on and so forth. You guys can go right down that chart and look at the overall enrollments and the percentage of students that passed. If we basically compare this to previous years, the difficulty, I think, of utilizing an online platform clearly shows the lack of students' desire to log on, the desire to, they signed in, but they never really completed any work that was assigned to them. You can go to the next slide, Danny. So the online learning platform obviously proved very challenging during the emergency, during the closure, obviously during summer school, for students to work solely on a computer, not have that face-to-face time with the teachers. Besides Edgenuity, we also supplement the learning with Google Meets, Google Classroom, and they also had separate office hours. So there was various ways that we tried to get students involved, as well as all the staff on almost a 2-day basis. We're calling students and parents at home to try and get their students online and performing in the platform. Obviously, there were some issues probably with students being able to log into devices, familiarizing themselves with a curriculum platform that was online, and sometimes I think we think our kids are a lot more tech savvy than they are, because some PD and some other things may have been beneficial to provide those students in order to be able to successfully maybe do better within that program. English language learners was very difficult, especially as we have a lot of them during summer school. That was probably the biggest hurdle to overcome, especially at Liberty, is English language learners. We had 2 of your staff, Ms. Cruz as well as Ms. Medina, who worked with 7-8 students separately, and then 9 through 12 Ms. Medina worked with. She was calling, she was working with kids on the platform. The Edgenuity platform allows students to get access to the curriculum in Spanish as well, so that was very helpful. It was just an issue getting students to be able to click that option once they got into the system when it was showed up in English. So there was a lot of legwork done by them. They did an excellent job reaching out to all the students, even face-to-face, working with the LL students, especially in the summer, is not even easy face-to-face, but it was a lot harder, obviously, through an online platform. Students didn't have a set schedule to follow. I think for some of them that was good. I think for a lot of the other ones that was bad. So they kind of did things at their leisure in order to complete assignments. A lot of the districts, when we first decided on what platform we were going to use and how we were going to set it up, did not want scheduled times for students. So for instance, if I normally run an English class from 9 a.m. till 11 o'clock, that's when we would have expected the students to log on. However, a lot of the feedback that we received back from district before we picked the platform and before we set up our guidelines were that they didn't want students to have that because of so many different struggles that students were facing outside of school, work, not getting up in the morning, etc. So that was obviously a big issue. And also, there were no regents issued in August, so there was no added pressure of passing exams, but no matter how much we tried to drill into the students that if they attended and they did their coursework, then they would have passed, they probably would have passed the program, and they didn't have to take that regents exam. It was tied to it as normal. So it was really, we thought, a huge carrot to throw out there, and we thought we would see a lot more student involvement this year due to that, that free pass, basically, but unfortunately, looks like it was kind of the other way around. So, does anybody have any questions or comments?
Any questions for Mr. Molesky? I don't see any, sir, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Takes us to our special education department with Ms. Monona and Mr. Brown.
Hi, good evening. Oh, can I just shout?
No, because the people online can't hear.
Oh, no, we're too many things to hold. I could be your valet. Will you change the song side? Yeah. Thank you. And her. Really? That's fine, yeah. Okay, good evening, thank you. So this is our special education presentation. I'm Charlotte Monona, Director of Student Support Services. This is Deborah DeGraw, my Assistant Director. And you can move forward. Special Education Re-envisioned, raising the bar for all children. That is, the direction we want to move towards this school year. Service versus a place. So the goal of special education should be re-envisioned, not about fixing anything broken. Special education is a coordinated set of services aimed at minimizing disability and maximizing opportunities to participate in general society. That's from Thomas Hare. The book is New Directions in Special Education. This is just to give you an idea. This is the continuum of special education programs and services. The goal is to have our classified students receive their IEP programs and services in the least restrictive environment. So you always want to move towards the top of the pyramid only as far as necessary, and you want to return to the bottom of the pyramid as rapidly and feasible as possible for students. One of the things we're going to look at this year is redefining 504 accommodation plans and individualized education plans, having a good understanding about what the difference is between the two. So special education is governed by the New York State Education Department. The Individuals with Disability Education Act is a special education law. Students who meet the criteria to be classified as a student with a disability must receive an IEP that is designed to provide individualized special education and related services to meet a child's unique individual needs. Section 504 is a civil rights, not a special education law, and it's governed by the Office of Civil Rights. So the focus is not whether the program meets a student's individualized needs, which is what IDEA focuses on. It's whether the local education agency can meet the student's needs as adequately as the needs of students without disabilities. So provide services and changes to the learning environment to enable students to learn alongside their peers. So, some of the focus areas that we're going to be working on for the 2020-2021 school year is we're going to continue to work with our New York State Education Department Regional Associate on the IEP implementation module. We're going to strengthen the district's relationship with the BOCES Regional Partnership Center and collaborate to provide professional development opportunities. And we're going to strengthen the district's understanding of 504 accommodation plans versus IEPs. We're also going to continue to provide meaningful, relevant, ongoing professional development to schools to include IEP development, writing observable, measurable goals and progress monitoring, assistance with developing and implementing Tier 1 behavioral intervention strategies, specially designed instruction as it relates to goals on IEPs, New York State alternate assessment, and transition planning. And we're going to continue to provide the district's students with disabilities access to their education in the least restrictive environment. So those areas were chosen specifically because of these certain things. So Liberty Central School District was identified under IDEA as a coordinated intervention district based on the performance of students with disabilities. This identification is based on 2018-19 state performance data, and there are slides in here that shows you the data that they used. And at this level of identification, Special Education Quality Assurance, CEQA, is more closely embedded in the district to provide oversight and technical assistance. And the regional partnership provides professional development as well. So transition planning, IEP writing, New York State alternate assessment, Tier 1 and Tier 2 behavioral strategies and interventions have also been identified as areas that need to be improved upon as well. And all of these affect student outcomes. So I'm not going to go through each and every slide, but this is, in 2018-19, the total enrollment in the district was 1,785 students, and we had a classification rate of 12.6%. So like I said, this is the data that they use to determine the district, identifying the district under IDEA. So graduation rate of students with disabilities, it's indicator 1, and the 2014 cohort of students are in this August 2018 report, and the district had a graduation rate of 17.6%. Therefore, the target was not met. The state target is 57.82% or higher. Indicator 2 is dropout rate of students with disabilities, and the 2014 cohort is in this report, and the dropout rate was 29.4% in the Liberty District, so they did not meet the target of 13% or lower. And then this is the grade 3 through 8 ELA, 15.6% at or above level 3. Did not meet the state target of 23%, and in 3 through 8 math, 18.6% at or above level 3, did not meet the state target of 23%. So 44% of students with disabilities with 80% or more of the day in general education, meaning students who are in the least restrictive environment in a general education class most as possible. We did not meet the state target of greater or equal than 60%. So we had 44%. And 28% of students with disabilities with less than 40% of the day in general education program. We had 28%, the state target was 18%. I know the numbers, it's a lot, but that's what our identification was based on. We also have Tier 1 participation for New York State alternate assessment. We have to do Tier 1 universal technical assistance. So based on the 2017-18 school year data, the Liberty School District was identified as exceeding the 1% capped in English language arts, math, and or science for students participating in the New York State alternate assessment. And as a result, was required to complete the 2018 school year online justification. That's due on October 16th. So, this is just some of the things that we'll be doing to address all of this and to work on it as we move forward. And some of it has already been done, some of it will continue to happen. As you can see, in August 2020, we developed a written procedure for the provision and implementation of a student's IEP as requested by the state. Also in August, we met with the Special Education Quality Assurance to discuss IEP implementation module and other areas. In September 15th, we met with the Regional Partnership to discuss a possible PD plan. In September and October, we reviewed procedures at building faculty meetings. On September 28th, we also met with the Regional Partnership. October 14th, which is tomorrow, we're facilitating the provision of the Tier 1 Universal Technical Assistance in time for the October 16th due date. September and October, PD and support, changes to the 504 accommodation plans, determining eligibility, speech and OT and PT are no longer going to be provided through a 504 plan. And as you can see, that it continues. We have more work in October and in November, and ongoing supports is IEP development. Writing goals that address students' needs is written on their IEP. Progress monitoring, Tier 1 and Tier 2 behavioral interventions and supports, and monthly meetings with special education facilitators. We're also going to provide some school-based administration with an overview of special education as well. And that is the end of the presentation. Are there any questions at this time?
Are you happy with the help that they're providing you to improve the situation?
I think it's in progress. So I don't have a complete answer to that as of yet. We're just initiating, some of it initiated prior to my arrival, and I'm trying to pick up the reins and continue it, and to kind of refocus it where we really need it. So I feel like it's a good partnership so far, and I feel good that we're going to move forward in a positive direction.
How many folks are in this team helping us? I'm just curious.
So we have our regional assistant from the New York State Education Department, our regional associate. She takes care of the technical assistance and our compliance portions. Then you have the Regional Partnership Center that offers professional development, and they have different individuals and different specialties. So they have a person who specializes in behavior. They have a person who specializes in IEP writing and everything that has to do with an IEP. They have a person who specializes in specially designed instruction and how it relates to special education. And they have someone, yes, correct, and they have someone who specializes in transition planning for students with disabilities. So they're people with expertise in specific areas, and it's just trying to make it, bring the collaboration together and make it make sense.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our superintendent, Dr. Tornatore, is asked to be excused this evening as he is ill. That takes us to our student board member report. Sophia Medina. Sorry, I skipped the whole thing. Okay, let me back up to board discussion. So number one is the Liberty mascot discussion. Last Thursday I asked the superintendent to put this on our agenda, on our discussion. I understand that there's a committee being formed as we speak to address the possible mascot change, a change to the Liberty Indians. I asked the superintendent to put it on here because I don't feel that it's necessary for us to go down this path at this time. The changes that are currently taking place with the COVID, with the kids at home, kids at school, all of that transition does not need one more level of change. Personally, I'm honored that we have a tradition here in Liberty to honor the native tribe from our area. We have honored them since the beginning of the school district, I believe, and personally I think it's I said honor so many times, but it's a great honor to that tribe. So I'd like to open the floor to discussion if anybody has any thoughts. Mr. DeWitt?
You said there was a committee formed by whom?
The question was who formed the committee, and I'm assuming the superintendent has asked our Mr. Bianco to put this committee together. He did mention it at our meeting, our first meeting in the gymnasium that night. I did not feel that the board was part of that discussion, and I just don't think this is the right time to have this discussion. Joyce? Ms. Teague?
I appreciate what you said, but I am 100% behind keeping our mascot as the Indians. My
Thank you, Joyce. Mr. Olson, Dr. Olson?
Well, many years ago, some people came to the board a long time ago, discussing, the mascot issue. And people had varying views on it then, and I think people have varying views on it now. If you're a Native American, you may not want to be called an Indian. So, none of us being Native Americans, I don't know if we're qualified to really discuss the term. The tradition, I think, is great, and I think it's a community decision, to tell you the truth. And at the time, we were talking about putting it up during the school vote for the community to vote on. And I think that would be a good way to go, because obviously people have varying views on it. But it's a tough call. But I think it should be a community decision, and like I said, Indians for some people may not be the proper term that they want to be referred to as. So there's a lot of issues involved in this. But I think we should probably discuss it at some point, and I'd be in favor of putting it up to the community, to tell you the truth. I for one, would not want to make the decision. I haven't, my family hasn't lived here for 100 years like some families have. So I don't think it's my decision, but it might be a community decision at some point.
Thank you, Dr. Olson. Anybody else?
So I was just going to kind of echo what Phil said. I think that it's not a small committee's decision. I don't think it's the board's decision. It's the community's decision. So I agree with you. I think it should, at some point, when we get there, get the community to weigh in on it. But I agree with you that I don't know that now is the right time. I think our energy and resources should be put towards this environment that we're currently trying to learn in. I understand we're trying to keep things moving forward, but at the same time, is it the best use of our resources right now?
Fair enough. Anybody else? So I will talk to the superintendent and put this on a future agenda item, possibly when things are much slower. This brings us to our NISBA proposed bylaw amendment and resolution for the 2020 annual business meeting. And Mr. Sinicourt, I believe you have some items you'd like to discuss with the board?
Thank you. A couple of weeks ago, I sent the board a list of the resolutions and asked them to review them and determine if there are any that they would not support. And so, to make this a very quick process and not go through every single resolution at the same time, does anybody have a resolution that they would not support?
So it's not that I won't support it, it's the other way around. So there's a resolution that I believe NISBA is saying that they would not recommend for adoption, that I think we should consider supporting. It was resolution number 23 that talked a little bit about creating a process for tenure review and renewal occurring every 5 years throughout the career. And again, this is, if you read it, it's intended to be instructive, not punitive. It's not a witch hunt by any means, but it's to encourage growth. It's to encourage teachers to continue to further their own education and further their own I guess their skills. So I think it's something that we should consider supporting.
Does anybody else have any comments on the resolution 23? Does anybody not agree with Mr. Assad? No. Okay. Any other resolutions that people have any concerns about? Whether they're recommended or not recommended? Okay. guess that will handle that.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Brings us to number 3, which is Wall of Fame induction ceremony postponement. If I could ask Dr. Sullivan to speak to that?
So with our recipient, Morgan, we were looking to have this, I'm sorry, I should know better. I should have looked here. You know, after speaking out, reaching out to our recipient, and looking as we had a date set for November, they were asked if we could, reschedule the ceremony for June. And so for the next ceremony, for upcoming June, we would have 2 recipients at that ceremony.
Perfect. I think that seems fitting to be able to do it in person and hopefully a live graduation where we have the live ceremony as well for the Wall of Fame. That only seems fitting. Any other discussion on the Wall of Fame induction? Item 4 is Board of Education Committee reports and committee member amendments, as we had a vacancy on the board which is now filled. We also now have vacancies on some of the committees. We have a vacancy on the curriculum committee, and Pam, I'm looking at you. We also have a vacancy on our policy committee. I'm also looking at you. And then the last one we have a vacancy on is the transportation committee, and I'm looking at you. Now, you don't have to volunteer for any or all of these. You're good with it? Okay, so in July, in a reorganizational meeting, we do go through these. If there is a committee that you would like to be on, just come see us, and if perhaps be an alternate, because I do know there are some committees that you'd be very, very well suited for. So this list is not written in stone, and we'd love to have you step up to anything that you'd like to be a member or part of. And thank you for volunteering your time as well. I don't know if I thank you personally or publicly for stepping up to the board. It's a very important job.
I was just going to say that I was on the transportation committee and Barbara was the alternate on that committee. If Ms. Fisk wanted to be on that committee, I would gladly go to the alternate so that she could be on that committee.
Is that okay with you, Pam? Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Karen. Now this brings us to H, our superintendent's report, and Dr. Torntori is excused this evening. Oh, sorry, Tony. If we could go back to the committees again, we have a committee report from Anthony Sinworth.
Thank you. Not much to say. Gus and I met for the meeting, and all we did was talk about the emails that were going back and forth between Rolling V and the school district. And that's pretty much all we did.
Fair enough. And I'd just like to state publicly that this is an ongoing discussion with Rolling V, and hopefully there is a resolution in the near future. And we'll leave it at that. Okay, is there any reason why I can't continue now? Please, thank you. Takes us to the superintendent report, and Dr. Torntori is excused as he is ill this evening. Takes us to student board member report, Sophia Medina. Ken.
Cool. So at the Liberty Elementary School, they just had their first virtual open house, and that went well. The third graders have also returned to the elementary building. In the middle school also just had their first virtual open house, and they welcomed back their 6th and 7th graders these past few weeks. In the high school, under academics, tomorrow is going to be the PSAT for juniors. The exam will take place in the high school gymnasium. Our seniors are hard at work on the national scholarships sent out by guidance, and I would just like to thank them for the hard work that they're putting into giving us these opportunities. The end of the first progress report period was on October 2nd, and the reports have been mailed. The high school open house went well in the virtual format. We also welcomed back our sophomores and juniors these past few weeks. And the Leader in Me student leadership team completed the second video in the series, which is titled Leader in Me. You can find this video on the high school Instagram or on the website. Under athletics and extracurricular, football and soccer have begun their off-season workouts after school while following the guidelines put in place. And just to reiterate from last meeting, Dr. Olson asked a question 2 meetings ago about getting a bunch of students' opinions on how school is going. Mr. Adams, myself, and Brooke Nichols, the alternate student board rep, have decided to wait to give that report until the first meeting in November so that we can have all of our seniors go through the hybrid, and so we're not excluding anyone who's solely virtual or solely hybrid, and to give a qualified report. So I just wanted to reiterate that statement.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there any questions for Ms. Medina? We have no questions, so thank you very much. Takes us to J, our financial report. School business official, Ms. Gonzalez.
Hi everyone,
And
I don't
before,
really have a lot to talk about tonight. It's been a little crazy this week, so I apologize. We are finalizing our audit, and I know Mr. Rossett had emailed wanting to know if we would actually have that done on time. As of right now, Mr. Trainer and myself believe that we will have everything finalized tomorrow afternoon, so we can submit first thing on Thursday morning. And I believe I sent my report this morning again to Mrs. Frank, so you should have that report, which just indicates some of the things going on with transportation, as Mr. Sinecor had indicated. Does anyone have any questions?
any questions for Ms. Gonzalez? So, if not, I just wanted to, on behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to congratulate you on your newborn baby.
Thank you. I apologize I couldn't be there tonight, but
It's understandable. Thank you.
have a good one.
Takes us to our administrator's report, Dr. Sullivan.
I'm going to work backwards on my report, but you can see just the first month of school, just snapshots for some pictures. More students are rolling in. Always a learning experience for everyone, and want to commend everyone who took part in this and the support we've had from the board, the community, staff, students to continue the educational process in these challenging times, to have us all feel there's a sense of normalcy in some cases. And then just going through different professional development and meetings, just covering all bases with instruction, safety, and professional development. But just wanted to always make sure to give some data, some questions that we're starting to ask and starting to look at as the learning deficits from last March till now. The testing window for our Renaissance STAR data is not closed yet, so this is preliminary data. There's some things that are still changing I'll go into. but this is as of October 5th. We do have a window closing October 16th, but we're going to extend that just because as more grades are transitioning in. It's important to get the data to see where we are and what interventions we need to implement working with the building teams. But overall, what you can see in looking at is in the middle column as a number of students. There are some differences because there are testing going on, and another check. There we go. Another challenge is there's students taking the test from home, so supervising that, but we are getting good participation, students really working diligently. And if you look in 8th grade, you can see there's some variation between this both years. So last year's there was 31%. This was the mid-year data, the winter benchmark data. What you have is longitudinal that we pull from the Renaissance platform. And the amount of students, there's less students that took it so far in 8th grade because they're virtual, but right now having 137, there's more taking it. Those are pretty good turnouts right now for our current state to see where our students are, and then moving all the way up. It's a little bit difficult with the 7th grade, but seeing last year in 6th grade, the 10% of percentile rank, that's the column of students that are ranking in the 10 percentile, according to the tests, is around 10% difference from last year to this year. So there is a fluctuation in the data. Again, this is just a snapshot just to show the board and the community with the community to see that we are taking the steps to baseline our students and seeing what we need to assist them. And then, as you can see, just another key notes, we didn't have enough data to really get a valid, you can't really, it's not reliable, you can't really compare for the 3rd grade and 2nd grade. There's some adjustments happening with those testing, so to get some students have to take an additional because they have abilities to take an early literacy or a STAR, and Ms. Harris is working with her teams to make sure that they're taking more of the STAR. It is a little bit more rigorous, and it gives us more of a realistic baseline. Any questions?
Do we know how many students are virtual only in the buildings?
I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, depending on the time right now. For virtual only, for each building, yeah, the building administrators will be providing that information in their reports.
Okay, great.
Any other questions for Dr. Sullivan? As always, sir, thank you so much. Brings us to our high school principal, Mr. Adams.
Good evening. In my report, I actually break down the percentage of virtual to hybrid students along with the attendance rates. Just wanted to point out, I didn't include it in the report, but we did break it down after the fact. Our overall attendance rate being 92.95 for all 4 grade levels. If we go back to last year, we were at 91.73, and then the year prior 94.08. So we're along the same levels that we would be in a traditional setting. So that's good news. However, we still want to be at a higher rate than we are. So I actually just wanted to announce that we are continuing to be fluid and flexible with this situation, but also the instructional needs of our students. So we're in the midst of an instructional shift on Wednesday. So we had originally intended to set up our courses and our schedule in order to be as similar to our traditional instruction as we could. So, but what we've learned in teachers reflecting on where students stand, how much they've learned so far, and And two, what our first quarter progress reports are showing us is that we have more students struggling now than we did last year at this time. So with that, we plan to use Wednesdays for most courses, and when I say most, I mean all the courses except college, AP, and honors, for a time that we can review, reteach, and enrich students and support them to learn the material. So the idea is that why keep going forward when we need to loop backward and see where they're at and get them to the point where we're filling in the learning gaps that were created in the spring and have been created by this situation. So I just wanted to let all of you know that we're continuing to be fluid and flexible as we move along in this new environment.
Any questions for Mr. Adams? If not, thank you, sir. Brings up to our middle school, Ms. Shea.
Good evening. In the board report, the first link is the attendance report, Dr. Olson, and that does have the percentages by grade level for virtual and hybrid. And our total percentage rate for percent present, virtual and hybrid is 92.4% this year. For last year, we were at 94.7%. So we're almost there. As far as the total attendance, again, the breakdowns are in the reports. Also, our first virtual open house was this year. Some grade levels saw an increase in participation, some saw similar participation to last year, and some saw a decrease. So that wasn't really consistent. But all of the information, again, is on the link. And it was nice to see the different ways that teachers or teams presented their information to parents, and they had follow-up and also live presentations with Google Meets with parents. Also, the weekly reviews are in your reports for September and October with pictures and anything going on at the middle school. The student council links as well as the middle school links are on the board report. We are currently in Spirit Week, that's why I'm dressed in a Yankees jersey. So we're having our Spirit Week continuing for both virtual and in-person students this week. Dr. Sullivan spoke to you about Renaissance testing. That's going well. It's a little difficult with virtual students, but we did send home information about the importance of letting your child do what they need to do, because we are using that information to provide intervention as well as enrichments on those assessments. And right now we have 85% of our students who have taken that test. We're also working with Dr. Miller on more staff development for our staff. Our guidance department is working hard on getting students in who are on the waiting list. We had a lot of new students this year, so we're working to make sure they can get in the building, whether they're in the red or white cohort. So we're working on that. And we're doing well with our safety for students and staff in the building, not only with regularly scheduled drills, but also the new COVID precautions that we need to follow. And any questions, concerns from you?
Any questions for Ms. Shea? If not, thank you so much. Brings us to our elementary school with Ms. Harris.
Good evening. So for attendance, the elementary school is about 2 percentage points below last year at this time. So we were at 94.63 and we're at 92.27. And I broke it down in my report. There was a link because we really wanted to take a look at who is not with us and where the participation is really falling down. And that seems to be in our pre-K PM cohort. That's kind of typical. I think by afternoon, a lot of pre-K kids are probably taking a nap and they don't get on the bus and go. That's very typical for the way the attendance works in pre-K. But also our first and second grade virtual students would be, have a high absenteeism rate. And it just kind of confirms for us a few things. First of all, the younger the children are, the more important it is that we provide an opportunity for them to come to school to learn, because it doesn't take just one person to participate when you are 6. It takes you and an adult, really, in order to make the online learning really productive. So I'm really glad that we do have our first and second graders in full-time, and the in-person participation rate is better than the online. I also wanted to let you know that our 4th grade hybrid doesn't have a great participation rate, 89.9%, but you have to keep in mind that our 4th graders really aren't back yet, so there's nothing hybrid about them yet. That is a virtual percentage right now. So hopefully when the kids start coming back into school and the teachers are there and can connect with them in person, either on Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday, they will be able to encourage better participation even on the virtual days. I also want to let you know about our capacity numbers. We are receiving requests every single day to come back to school, and we have very few spots left in our school, and we've used every space and every teacher available this year. So first grade, there's not a spot left. Kindergarten, we have 1. Actually, we don't. I just filled it before I came here tonight, and the teacher doesn't even know that their spot is full. 3rd grade, we have 2 spots left. In 4th grade, we now have 10 because I've got a sibling in kindergarten and 4th grade just before I came here tonight. So we're really not waiting, because we know that if we wait until second trimester begins, that's a lot of time lost, and their ability to participate, really, if they're asking to come back in, it's because they're having trouble and they're just not here. So we're doing everything we can to get the kids back in, but we are at a point where we will not be able to accept more children back into the school with the number of teachers and the number of rooms that we have. And I want to say that includes that we have now moved 1 class into the APE gym so that we could bring more children back. And that is one of our highest needs groups. It's a self-contained special education class. That teacher was able to get every single child in their class into school if we could provide them with a space. And Mrs. Minona and I worked together, and we decided we're going to open the APE gym to that class and get every child back in, so they're back in full-time, and I think that really benefits the kids. But I am worried about the lack of space and available resources for those kids who find that they want to come back. Everything has been going great, and I also just want to say that as the principal, and I'm hearing this every day from teachers, it is absolutely, positively fabulous to have our kids back in school, and they need to be there. So that's it for the elementary school. It's going to be a space and resource issue this year for us.
Okay, any questions for Ms. Harris?
No? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Director of Technology, Mr. Harkleroad.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. In my report, I touched on some issues that have been happening with Google and GoGuardian, Jamf, our Mac server that pushes out apps. We're not the only school encountering these issues. Google itself is doing updates almost daily to counteract things like kids not showing up in meetings and whatnot. And a couple times we ran into a snag to where we thought it was an issue here and started making changes to try to better it. and it ended up being the manufacturer having issues or doing updates right in the middle of a school day and causing some problems. So we're working through, like I said, some Google, some GoGuardian, and Adobe problems. And one thing I did want to bring up very briefly is the Google Enterprise for Education. When the COVID crisis hit, Google opened its doors up and let everybody use Google format, whether it's the Google Meets and Google Classroom and other products for free. But now, as this is hopefully winding down, some of the higher-ended products, they're now starting to charge for. And there are products that our teachers want and need. So we're looking into and hopefully purchasing the Google Enterprise for Education. We're looking to do it through VOCE, so it's state aidable. So the few $1,000s it costs this year, we'll hopefully get back in aid next year. And there's a little bit of an unforeseen expense, but I think I've got it covered out of our budget, so it shouldn't affect any budgeting, at the Board of Education level, just, juggling money around in my accounts. And, let's see. Yeah, that's basically it on the report. And I did want to say one thing, I don't know if she made it here or not. Tonight is mine and my wife's 30th wedding anniversary. So if she's listening, happy anniversary. And I'll be home in a couple hours. That's it for the report. Any questions?
Yeah, are there any technical issues with online learning that we're having problems with, or everything is
No,
going
it's
as well as you want?
It's evolving. A couple people used the word fluid tonight, and it really is. We've seen where, one class is absolutely perfect. The next class, half the kids don't show up because their Chromebooks never did this update. So we send out information, this is how to manually update them, to prompt them along. So it's an ever-evolving process. And, a lot of times, as IT people, you're eager to jump in and try to make changes to accommodate such things. But with these changes, other than telling the Chromebooks, update already, come on, we're waiting, there's not a lot we can do to control what Google does or GoGuardian does. So we basically let them make their changes, see what it does to how we interact with the different programs, and then make changes cautiously so they don't cause interruptions of service. But like I said, almost 1,800 Chromebooks out there, they all need updates. And these updates hopefully will help with Google Meets and Google Classroom. But in the meantime, it's kind of hard not to want to jump in and make changes yourself. We're just kind of waiting for these systematic changes to happen through Google. So yeah, there are challenges, and I wish some of the updating they did was a little bit more announced. Like today, GoGuardian had an issue, and it wasn't letting teachers add kids to their classroom and whatnot. And we had to go search for it online instead of sending an email to all the schools saying, hey, there's going to be an issue. We had to go find out, don't touch anything, we're making changes right now. So this ebb and flow of information, it's got to be decimated a little bit, I don't know, more proactively, I would think, by the manufacturers, but, they are doing it, they're helping. I just wish there was a little bit more information exchange on it.
Are there any other questions for our tech department? If not, thank you, sir, and congratulations on 30 years.
Thank you.
Our Director of Facilities, Albert DeMarmos, is not with us this evening. So that'll take us to our recommended action items. Are there any of the 24 that need to be pulled? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Mr. Torrance, a second by Mr. Sinicourt. Any discussion? discussion? Mr. Sinicord?
I just want to say that I was happy.
Sorry, I was happy to see that some of the new employees coming in are recent graduates, and it's nice to see that they're going back to their home.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, we can bring it to a vote. And that passes unanimously. We have no other recommended action items, so we go to our future agenda items. I believe Mr. DeWitt has something?
Yeah. People online can I have other panel. Thank you. I would like the board to vote. No. It's on. Better now? I'd like the board to look at our process of how we handle tenure of our staff at the board level. As Liberty does it now, I feel we can do it better at our level and have our first year employees, their evaluations come to the board and however we figure out to do it. But I think we should be doing it on a yearly basis and not just looking at the final year when it comes to it. But with that, I'm not trying to create more work for administrators and stuff like that. So I want the input from the district and the administrators on how best to do that. And of course, I'd like the board to have that conversation and your thoughts. How we can better judge our employees at this level. It's something that's it's not new to other places, it happens other places, it's just something different than we've been doing. I'd like to have that conversation in the future.
Perfect. Perhaps we'll put it on the agenda for a board discussion, where we would probably move to the policy committee after that discussion. I'll ask Dr. Tornatore to include all the stakeholders that make those decisions. Do we have any other future agenda items? Leads us to our number 2, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Sophia Medina, are you online?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to talk about the mascot. So when I was asked, when it came to board discussion and everybody was discussing the mascot, I asked to be unmuted to speak on my ideas about the mascot, but I was denied, saying that I should stick to my agenda with Mr. Adams, which came in a different part of the meeting, which is the student board report. My title is a student board member, and the discussion about the mascot was under board discussion. I believe that my title means that I am a member of the board, and that I should be allowed to speak during those times. Instead, I was asked to speak under public comment, so I am, because I'd rather say what I have to say whenever I can say it, rather than push it to the side, because I think it's important that the board hears a student opinion about the mascot. So, for the board's information, students were asked to be on a committee to talk about the mascot. We got an email from Mr. Bianco asking if we would be there, if we would voice our opinions, and it was sent to all high school students. I'm not sure if middle school or elementary school students were also involved on that committee, but I just know that I received an email as a student. And in terms of if this is the time to be discussing a mascot, I believe it is the time, because if we're never going to talk about these issues, and maybe we want to say push it to another time when we have more resources, I think it should be up to Mr. Bianco and to we should discuss it right now. Because ultimately, we are the ones that are going to be putting in the hard work on this end. So I think that it's a question for him, and not really a question for the board, because he is the one that's going to be doing a lot of the hard labor on that end. And I think that in terms of who should be on the committee, I definitely agree that there should be members of the community on there, but I definitely think that students need to be the prime members of these groups, because we are the ones that are wearing that logo, we are the ones that are wearing the liberty, we are the ones who are representative of that now and in the future. And I think that the majority of the people who want to be on the committee have been in Liberty School since they were in pre-K, and they need to be on that committee. And if the students and Mr. Bianco decide that now is the time, I believe that it is the time. So that's all I really wanted to say in terms of the mascot, but I am also very upset that with my title, I am not allowed to speak during board discussion. And so if I was misled in terms of when I can and could not speak, I'd like to be spoken about that later on in the future. I don't think now is the time to address it, but I did want the board to know how upset I was feeling about being denied the right to speak when my title is student board member. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Medina. Do you have any other public comment?
Is there anybody else on the committee who would like to have public comment? No.
If we do not, then I'll...
Actually, I think what the young lady just talked about it might be a future agenda item, actually.
And I did say that we will put it on the future agenda item, Phil.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Is there any other, if there is no other public comment, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Assent, Mr. Sinicord, and we are adjourned.